Let's get it recording. So I'm going. Yeah, right, we're back up and going. We're here with the main man, Paul Malin. Right, these questions we got from the group and also my chap that helps me out in the behind the scenes, Vaughan Williams, another former BSMA champion as well. He's got some great questions he put together for me as well. So we'll get going with them. Paul, you were a member of the prestigious Team Green Kawasaki youth team. Can you explain what this actually entailed and how this support helped you ready for the professional career in motocross?
Well, hi Vaughan. The first thing I'll say is, and I touched on it earlier, probably in part one.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
You know, I was on the first team, as you said, and it was also, that was a defining moment in terms of which way my career would go, whether it was grass track speedway or carrying on the motocross path. So, you know, from that side, that was very important. I remember there was the guy that ran the youth side back then was a guy called John Faraday. Now his kid Mark, who is now Bridgestone, I mentioned him as well.
Yeah,
he was kind of running the youth side of things. He would go to all the youth races because he was a parent of Mark. Alec knew him very well, and he just said, "Look, you're running it. You're in charge of it," and blah blah blah. And I think my dad must have signed a letter of intent just that came at some point during the 1980 season, which was my final year on 50s, and that was it. I just remember my dad saying, "Oh, you guys are going to ride for Team Kawasaki next year." And I was like, "Cool," and that was it. And then the first day that we had was at a hotel in Stratford-on-Avon. If I drove through Stratford now, I know exactly where it is. It might have been called the Moat House. I don't know, but I remember running in along the river and then this big hotel on the left-hand side. We went there. We were in a conference room. So all the riders, so 5 of us, plus parents, so at least another 2, because I know both my parents were there. Dave Thompson's parents were both there, you know, maybe Mark Bennett's and whatever else. Plus Alec, plus John Faraday, and then and Pat, his wife, I think. And they told us basically how it was going to work. Said, "Look, welcome to Team Kawasaki, Team Green. This is what we ask of you." There was an A4 sort of folder with everything that Kawasaki do, Kawasaki Heavy Industries, you know, responsible for making trains, helicopter engines and jet skis and all, you know, whatever. Everything they do, this huge industrial estate of Kawasaki in Japan. And basically, the long and the short of it was, we are going to give you, I think it was like maybe 3 bikes for the year. All the products are sport. There'll be a budget, you know, in terms of what you need. You've got a spares budget, which is everything that we use on the senior team. You'll get clothing, which this is how many sets you'll get. You're expected to wear, when we go to 2-day nationals, a brand new set every session. So back then would have been a practice, 3 races on the Saturday, practice and 3 races on the Sunday. So probably at least 7 sets of kit.
Nice.
And obviously even at a 1-day race, it was muddy, brand new set of kit every time we went out, as in, not brand new straight out the packet. But
clean.
And the biggest thing that Alex said was, you are responsible for doing your own kit, you know, because do your own gear bag, because you've got to learn not to be dependent on your parents, basically. You know, it's your gear bag. So I was 8 years old doing my own gear bag, you know, before every race. So that's where the whole socks, pads,
the system got going. Yeah.
We'd jet wash our boots off or hose our boots off, whatever. We had to polish them up, dub in, you know, sort of keep them nice and loose, and the old leather boots in the time. So we would, you know, fully responsible for prepping everything, you know, taking apart our helmets, changing the linings, you know, rebuilding them, doing our own lenses, doing our own goggles, doing our own kit. And if you forgot anything when you got to the race and you forgot your helmet, it wasn't your parents' fault, it was your fault. So there was a huge amount of responsibility on us as kids, you know, to start taking care of ourselves and being accountable for ourselves. And another thing they said was, you know, win, lose or draw, you never discredit the bike. You never, you know, speak badly of the bike. Even if the chain breaks and we can see the chain's broken, somebody says, what happened to the bike? Don't know. Even if they can obviously see the chain is broke. If it was you know, we never had it actually. Very rarely. I don't think I ever had a bike seize on me when I was in, you know, maybe when I was 14, ACU finals at Hatherton, I had 2 engines go, but I was using a Mark Barnett engine from the US, 125. And I don't know if it was different fuel, different elements or whatever else, but that went twice that weekend. God. So it was probably the whole time from 81 to 86 it would have been. I think that might have been my first ever malfunction with Team Green, with Kawasaki. But in the event that anything did happen, and that did happen that weekend, you just say, I don't know. Obviously, it's a technical problem. Even if it was blatantly obvious, flying out everywhere, smoke coming out from wherever, blah, 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 that was it. So never discredit the bike. Never throw the bike down. Never chuck it against seven. Never throw your helmet off. So no matter what you were feeling inside, you have to take those emotions.
Get back to the van.
And get back to the van, and want to shut yourself in and have a good old cry or whatever, then just kind of that stiff upper lip kind of thing, just hold it all in no matter what. So that was massive. That was massive, because that also would have determined whether you had the right temperament going forward. You can win, but you don't like losing. And you're just going to lose your, if you're going to lose your shit, kind of.
do that.
Then some teams don't like that either.
Tell you what, it was very successful throughout the years as well. Even when I raced, there was like Carl Nern, Stephen Sword coming through the Team Green. It was so good. It was so good.
It was a great platform. Platform. And Honda actually did try it with, Honda Britain, because you had that thing with Jamie was Honda, I was Kawasaki. You had that Alec Wright, Bob McMillan thing at Honda UK. They were both Honda Europe, Kawasaki Europe, whatever. And so me and Jamie, then we had our Kawasaki team, and over the years, Honda would have had people like Stephen Holmes or
that's it. I spoke to him quite a bit.
Or there were a lot of guys that came through, and so there was a lot of competition between Kawasaki and Honda at the time. Suzuki had done it, but then they kind of tailed off as Kawasaki picked up and Honda picked up. Yamaha with their Motul Yamaha team, Justin Morris, bunch of others. They got involved, but then at the same time, late 80s, early 90s, British Superbike Championship changed, and all the UK money went into Superbike, and motocross kind of got left behind a little bit, really, which was a shame.
Right, cool. Next one. Your first full season in the World Championships was 1990 when you were 18 years old. Maybe he's got his facts straight. Yeah. Looking back, if you were given the opportunity again, would you have maybe started off in the lower CCs, or do you believe racing in the 500 category gave you a steeper learning curve the rest of your career? Because it was in the deep end to a degree. Really.
It was in the deep end, but like I say, it was one of those sink or swim moments. I chose to swim. Didn't know any different. All I know is that I was riding 125, 250. I was okay. Jumped on a 500, and something clicked. Where power of the bike, the way that I was riding the bike, it was refreshing. Caught a few people's imagination and that kind of thing. So no, I wouldn't change it. If I didn't feel comfortable on the 500 at the time, sort of the first time I rode it, as I said, was when I was 17, and I ended up having those first couple of races, and then that week with Stuart Coyle, and then the race after that where I'd gone from here to there. Had that not happened, who knows? Maybe I would have been a 125, 250 rider. Maybe I would have done things the right way. A lot of these things go on confidence, and I jumped on the 500 and I was confident.
You look good on it,
and that was it. So, no, I don't regret it.
Cool. What do you believe you needed to do differently in your career to have secured a world championship?
Bloody
Tortelli.
I mean, to be honest, I don't know. 91, there was an opportunity there, and it came at the expense of Kurt, actually. I think when he broke his femur in Holland, in Norg, near Assen, actually, he was on a flying lap. It was the qualifying practice on the Saturday, and that ultimately gets you into the GP, and then we did time training on Sunday for the grid position.
In the morning,
And on the Saturday, I remember coming out of this one turn. It was like the run out towards the woods, back into the sort of open area. And as I came out the turn, the yellow flags just came out. And as I kind of just rolled the jump, I saw Kurt over here and his bike over there. And I was actually the first one to him. I just stopped, went, saw him. I was like, "Are you okay?" Not knowing what the thing, and he just said, "I think it's my leg. Can you get Aaron or, or somebody?" So I was like, "Cool." Aaron was his mechanic, his brother.
Yeah. Okay.
So literally, I jumped on the bike, went straight into the pit area, and went straight past my pit at Kawasaki and went straight to the end, which is where Kurt was, obviously. And I said, "Kurt's just in the trees. I think he's broke his leg. He wants you there." So obviously they all took off, him, Paul Malin, a few others probably. But and then Alec, I went to see Alec, and he went, "What was all that about?" I went, "Oh, Kurt's crashed. I think he's done his leg." "Yeah, but why the fuck didn't you go and do a lap?" And I went, "Dude, even if I could do a lap, the next lap, the flags are still going to be out.
Yeah, so
medics are still going to
ruin the lap. Yeah, ruin the lap anyway. Yeah.
I'm not even sure if they did red flag it or not briefly, but I was kind of shocked really that there was just like no compassion there. It's like, dude, it's your job to, make sure everybody's okay when they fall off. It was like, dude, I've never stopped for anybody in my life. You know what I mean? But I remember stopping for Kurt because he was a mate. I got with him. I got on with him really, really well. So it was the natural thing for me to do. But what was the other part of the question there?
Because that was the year he was winning the world championship by quite a few points, wasn't it?
He was leading the championship, and I went and won the first race. And then I messed up the start in the second one, went down on the first turn, and then I had probably 2-3 attempts to come through, crash. Eventually wrote the bike off and didn't score, and I think I came away from there 2 points behind Kurt. Then we had I think it was a 2-weekend break, and then we had another race. And so I had a weekend off, and then we got 1 weekend break, then a race in Belgium, and then the next GP in Italy. And I remember having sort of just a few days off, coming back, turning up at this track down south somewhere. It might have been Reading, might have been Andy Nichols' place. And they said, Kawasaki said, right, because Thorpe is having problems with his engines and his con rods and all that kind of stuff breaking, Kawasaki have come up with what we call a B cylinder. So we need you to ride it. I was like, okay. So I rode it. I went down the start straight, and it just felt like immediately like it was mellow. Something wasn't working. I thought the power valve wasn't kicking in. I remember coming back to my mechanic. I said, the power valve working. It was just seems to be working. I said, well, so I said, okay, I'll do a few laps. He went, how is it? I went, shit. I said, it's got no power compared to what we were running. He said,
before,
okay, let's try and stick it out today, and anyway, came from there just going, not good. So then the next weekend was an international race in Belgium at Kester. And I remember Alex saying, well, you've got to ride it because you need to know in a race situation. Wasn't getting out the starts, couldn't come through the field. I was riding over myself, making mistakes, and it was just going from bad to worse. So I said, when we left there, I said to Kev Morris, my mechanic, we need that 8-cylinder back in Italy next week. He went, yep. And when he rolled up on the Friday, he had, this look on his face. And I said, what's up? Oh, nothing, just not a good journey, long journey, haven't slept well, blah, blah, blah. Just trying to make up excuses, Couldn't tell me. And I went down the start straight, and it was an uphill start through a chicane and kept climbing, a bit like Faenza in Italy. And Sanatoglia was the race. And I remember doing a lap and coming in, and I went straight to Alec, and I went, basically, see you next Tuesday. And said, where is the B cylinder? The A cylinder. And he went, it's all we got, Ace. You got to ride it. And I went, you don't want the world championship then, do you? Basically. And no starts, riding over myself. I think we went 6 motos, no points. And then they decided to, reintroduce that A cylinder to me, but I'd already dropped it down to 7. And then, ended up sort of, coming up short on a 3rd overall in the championship. Jackie Martins won the championship, but I should have, or maybe they won the championship actually. But that should have been a completely different season. completely different season. But you know, a bit of tampering here and there, and whatever else. But that was it. I was the number 2 in the team, even though I was like the lead rider in points. You know, if that would have been now, both of us would have had exactly the same opportunity, same equipment, same whatever. And if you want to run that cylinder and you want to run that cylinder, they're both
had the options. Yeah,
that's how it would be now. You know. So maybe that one got away. You know.
For sure. Yeah.
But anyway, that was it. And then obviously you mentioned Tortelli 96. I think I need him to raise my game to the level where it should have been again. He was just that little bit better than me over the year, obviously. And then, like I say, 97, I had those injuries at the beginning of the year, which that was probably
great chance.
After that, fighting with and managing my back for the last 3 years and obviously didn't even get started in 2000 after that crash. I don't know, difficult to say, but but there was a couple of years there really that 2 or 3 stand out that could have been different, or 2 certainly.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, he's put, if you could pick a dream team motocross the nations team from any era to race for Team GB, who would you pick and why?
Wowzers. Well, obviously I'd pick Roggenberg and I'd put me on the 125. I'd put Robbie on 250 and I'd put Kurt on 500.
I had a feeling you was going to say that.
You know what I mean? Because
even Dobby said that.
Because I just think we've had some good teams over the years. Some really good teams over the years. Even my first year, me, Jamie, and Rob in Vimmerby, Sweden. There's nothing to say that we couldn't have won that. 91 Valkenswaard, there's nothing to say we shouldn't have won that. The same 3 riders, you know. It's just one of those races that you're relying on other things to go well for you, you know. And actually, I've probably been the reason why America won it on 2 occasions. I was leading the last race in Sweden in my First Nations, and just jumped up over a brow of a hill, lost the front through a berm, and I think I don't know if I finished 4th or 5th in that race, but I know I had a nice little gap. But I know Puzar came by me, he probably went on to win the race. I know Dirk Gherkins from Belgium, he went by, and Jeff Stanton went by, and it was actually Stanton went by Gherkins out in the trees on the last lap, pretty much punted him, you know, off the track. Secured America the win that day. That pass probably wouldn't have been enough had I have won the race, you know, in 1990 maybe. And 91, again, me and Stanton, I was leading, I think, the first race. And just the tabletop, main grandstand, which is now the finish line jump, then you go left, right, and then the finish line was there just by the start. Same thing, I was just caught off guard, back marker, and jumped into the corner, folded the front, Stanton went by, and I got like 3 seconds, 4 seconds on him at that point. Had I have won that race, that might have had an overall bearing. Again, he needed to put in a last lap pass on a Dutch rider for America to win that day. You know, back to back. And both times I was in a leading position, and it was 1 for a win, 2 points for second, 3 for third.
At least amount of points.
They, you know, but you know what? I don't care, because when we did win it in '94, we ended that streak. 13 years. 13 years, 27 years since the last victory from GB. The sad thing is that despite the riders that we've thrown at it in the past, and we've thrown some good riders and good teams at it, you know, we're getting close to 27 years again.
It's mad, isn't it? We've had some race wins and stuff, but not podiums. And
Natalie was sensational.
That was cool,
And Tommy's putting in some performances as well, you know, to be class winner and things. So Jamie's put in, you know, some good rides.
Cool.
You know,
is it Brazil?
Yeah. Oh, did he beat Ricky Carmichael that day?
Yeah, he did mention that. Apparently, he still winds him up about it. Can he beat him? Yeah. It's not a bad one to bring up, I suppose.
No. I beat the GOAT.
I beat the GOAT. Yeah. Right. Next one I got. What does a usual race weekend look like for yourself at an MXGP event? Is working the other side of the camera just as involved as being a racer?
So I need to be at the race on a Thursday. A GP weekend for me is 5 days, first of all.
All right.
You know, you switch on the TV on a Sunday or Saturday to watch qualifying. We've just arrived. Nah.
No, no.
Friday, Thursday. I mean, obviously, I'm living in Belgium, so I can drive to Lommel, Valkenswaard. I'm 15 minutes from both of those. I'm in Germany 5.5 hours. Lockett, I can be 7 hours. So there's a few that I can drive to, no problem.
Yeah.
Obviously, Matterley, it's 3 hours to the boat, and then 2.5 hours from there probably. So, my home race is one of the furthest ones for me. But the races that we need to fly, we're normally on the first flight out. Normally get into wherever we need to be. Lunchtime-ish. I have a TV meeting, production meeting around 5:30 on Thursday afternoon. So that'll be me, Lisa. You have a mixed GP TV, so you have Behind the Gate, which is a 26-minute highlight package. Yeah. Our production meeting is based on that program. Okay. So we will have the producer in there, me, Lisa. We'll have our girl from marketing. We will have our press officer in there. We'll have our marketing communications manager in there. And then there's one of the guys who's involved with the podium, sort of ceremonies. Yeah. And a couple of our freestyle cameras, the ones that are bringing all the slow-mo action and things like that. And the ones that do the team reports. So that meeting on Thursday afternoon is who are the guests on the studio show? Who are the team reports we're doing? Are those team reports on location, on site, or are they in town somewhere in a restaurant or at a theme park? Who else are we talking to? What other things have we got to worry about with social media? So this meeting's normally about 35, 45 minutes long, maybe an hour. And so that when they start on Friday, they know exactly where they're going right off the bat, to which team, when, where, whoever. For me, Friday is I'll do my track walk. If there are any track changes, I'll make notes because I will do what we call a script. For me, I just freestyle it because I'm at the track and, I know where we're going, but there might be TV stations around the world that aren't on site. In fact, all of them aren't on site. I'm the only person on site live. If we're in Italy, Italy might use our facility, for instance, or if we're in Germany, they might use it there as well. But I can pretty much say that we're the only live people on site. Eurosport will do it from a studio in London. Eurosport Holland will do it from a studio in Amsterdam, let's say. So for them, when they see the live and they've then got a script of the track. So basically it'll be start straight, 180, 100 meters, 180 right. The first jump is this. It's just a breakdown
of stats.
So they've got what they need just to sort of follow the camera. First tabletop, it might be the Monster Energy tabletop, 25 meters into a left, split lane, whatever, blah, 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 So I will have that done by Friday. But normally I'm just talking to riders and team managers, just keeping an eye on what's going on, any updates, any new things, any testing, how the injuries, what's the situation. And then obviously Saturday I get to the track probably around 7:30 on Saturday morning because the first practice is going pretty soon. And I only get one opportunity really to watch the free practice from the support classes. So 125, 250 European women, 85, 65, whatever it might be. Because then around 10:15, we do a studio show, which is live. So that overlaps one practice session into another practice session, and because I think the 125 and 250, I need to watch that because I might not have chance to see them again. And I like to be prepared. I just want to see, when I see the riders lining up on the gate, I know that's that rider. And you don't you miss the first practice and miss most of the second practice. So I'm there probably 7:30 on a Saturday morning. We go through the whole day. We do the studio show. We do the qualifying races, and then maybe a race at the end of that. So we could be off air at 6. And then sometimes we'll record the GoPro lap for the online audience. That might be around about 7:30 in the evening. So at least 12 hours at the track on a Saturday. And then on Sunday morning, again, I'm probably at the track about 7:30, 8 o'clock. I'll watch the warm up for the first support race because obviously they get their 3 laps go straight back to the waiting zone, and then we're live with the race about 10 minutes later. So then we're 6 or 7 races on race day, and then we'll do news highlights probably an hour after we come off air, so around 7 o'clock on Sunday night. They're the ones you see on the websites where this is what happened at the second round, blah 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 blah, and it'd be race 1, race 2, race 2, podiums, interviews, whatever. And then in the past years, so we tried something new this year, but for Behind the Gate, we would do a very specific highlight of the race.
Yeah.
That would be based on some of the live footage and some of the footage that our other cameras get, and from the GoPro cameras and things like that. And our edit team then will spend probably another 8 hours working through the night to get that ready. I then might go to the track at 2 o'clock in the morning and voice those races again for that program. So, there's been times where I've been at the track like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, Monday. But this year we've tried something different. Our producer has tried, let's maybe cut the live commentary in certain areas that still tell the story of whatever. And the first 2 rounds this year, we've managed to do that. So, so far that new system I think is working well. The live commentary from the thing, from the broadcast to drop into this highlight program.
Have you been enjoying this role?
I love it. I'm one of these people that if I don't enjoy doing something, I won't do it. And when I was, I would say 15, I was in America. I broke my leg. I broke my lower leg, left leg, tib fib, compound fracture. I was off the bike for 9 months. And during that time that I was still in plaster, I used to go to our local races, Cambridge races, and Rob Herring's previous mechanic, when he first came over, sort of 85, 86, when he was like first on the radar on his blue Stratos Kawasaki. Sean Brown was his mechanic, and Rob's dad always used to film everything, video camera, everything. And when Sean came over, he came over with a camera, and he would video stuff. And I think at this particular time, he wasn't working for Rob, and he was just staying with us, with our family in Leicestershire. And he would just video our local schoolboy races, my brother, my older brother racing, my younger brother, whatever. So then I would go down onto the start line. And how it was then, you'd be on the line as the other race ahead was, going round. And then as soon as the race was done, travelling marshals in, that race goes, So while we're waiting for that, I'd be doing my own pre-grid interviews with my buddies on the line. Sean would be there with his camera. I'd have my crutches and I'd turn it upside down, and the rubber stopper on the end I'd use as a microphone. And I'd put on a spoof American voice, like the old sort of 80s VHS videos. But I would exaggerate it so much, here we are, Chippenham, England, and I'm with Jamie Ferguson, and I'd put the microphone under his helmet and just so Jamie, tell me about the track, he'd be like, yeah, man, track's good, man, whatever. And I'd go down the grid, talk to my buddies and just have all this pre-race interview stuff, So there was already an element of maybe going down that route.
You like that sort of thing, yeah.
And I've been fortunate enough to go to some BSB rounds and jump in the commentary booth and sort of see how it works between the headset before. This is when I was still racing, And, the one thing that people don't see or hear is obviously when you're live, let's say, so obviously now our second race is live in America. So on CBS Sports Network. And we will be directly linked to their production room. So we would be on site, let's say Belgian GP. I would have our crew. So live in 10 seconds, live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then you get that opening jingle. There might be a slight delay in the headset, but I can hear the American line going 3, 2, 1. We go live. And so we have our opening jingle. And then I don't know if you've noticed, but during the live, I will do the hello, the welcome. This is where we're at, the postcard scene, whatever. And then there will be certain points where you can just, I just break, maybe just before we go to a team report with Lisa, for instance, on MXGP TV. I might just go quiet for a few seconds, but I might round out that section, not handing over to her straight away, because I know that in my headset I've got America talking to me saying, commercial break in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, play commercial, back in 2:30. And if there is time then to introduce Lisa with the team report, then I'll do that. If not, I'll just let that play out naturally and whatever else. So when there's the 15-second board or the 5-second board, sometimes I'm there wanting to go, but I can't because America aren't back from the commercial break yet. And so you've just got to wait for them to come in and then we go, and they might have already just crossed the gate and, whatever.
So there's a lot to it, yeah.
Yeah, myself, maybe Jason Thomas, Fly Racing will be next to me, or Adam Wheeler. So you're having conversations, me talking, listening to them, asking the questions. We'll have an on-site producer saying, okay, we've got the interview now with the team report with this. So if you want to queue that up, yeah, great. And then at the same time, I might have America coming into my ear or going, we're going to or coming back from a commercial break. So there's 3-4 different conversations going on at one time.
Yeah.
But you don't hear that. I'm just there, just chatting away because you just get used to all that white
going
noise.
On, yeah. Do you ever get nervous at all still when they do the whole we're going to go live? Do you get any of that nerves?
No, I don't actually. And I think that just comes from being prepared.
Yeah.
Being prepared. I prepare all my own info, my own stats, my own everything else.
Okay.
I prepare for every eventuality in terms of, if there's a red flag situation, whatever else, you can't go, well, what do we do now then? Because if we're only on, let's say it's a first race and we're only on MXGP TV, where there are no commercial breaks, you've got to fill that 10 or 20 minutes of whatever else. So, there might be a little bit of talk back between me and the director or me and the producer saying, can we get somebody to go here and check, or can we get somebody to go there and check, so I can mute and do whatever. But, you can request a replay of what happened up until that point or whatever, you know what I mean? So fill it, there's ways to, fill that time, but it's just how you manage that. They're probably the worst parts actually, is just kind of, well, how long is this break going to be for then? If we do have a stoppage, and also if I'm in there on my own.
Yeah.
But when you struggle to speak about things like I do, then
I love the details though. It's all about the details.
It is, and it's just being prepared. Fail to prepare to fail is a phrase that I've known for years and all the rest of it. And it's the same as a rider, whether you're working in management in a top corporation, and it's the same with TV. And I knew, I do get people say that they don't like, they don't like the way that, I comment, or the way that Ralph or Ricky, or the way that Jeff, or the way that Roger or Jack or whoever, you know what I mean? You're not going to please everybody.
No.
Everybody's got a style of commentary, and they've got and who prefers, one or the other or what. And all I would say is, if I could, if somebody like messaged me and went, dude, your commentary is like absolute pants, I'd be like, cool, well, I'll see you at the French GP next week and you can come in and see what we deal with in terms of whatever. And actually, I'll hit play and you can do all the talking. How's that?
There's a lot involved in that.
That's not being sort of like a dick about it or anything like that. But I would also say, and this is the favored is, and I've had people do this before where they've friends of mine have come up and gone, man, some people have said this and this about you, and they've gone, we know how difficult that job is, and all they've said is, why don't you just okay, why don't you see how difficult it is, then turn your sound down and do your own commentary, not just on the race, but the 15 minutes before the race, when we start the program, and then we get into the team reports and the track and the qualifying highlights and all the rest of it. I give it 2 minutes before you sit there and go, shit, man, I've already run out of stuff to say. You know what I mean?
You got to be able to.
And it's how you deliver it, and you've got to be careful what you say, how you say it, or just in delivery. more than anything
Yeah.
else, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I love
There's
it.
a lot involved. A lot involved.
Yeah.
There is a lot involved in that role. Next one he's put, with your role within MXGP and the countless years you were a successful professional racer, you've seen close hand some of the best racers of all time. If you were to pick a pound for pound top 3 of riders from the time you've been involved, who would they be and why?
My top 3 all-time best riders.
You can tell he's a boxing fan, pound for pound.
Yeah.
I like that. I love that.
I don't know, to be honest. I know. Oh man, who would I say? Who would I say? I think right at the very top, you would probably have to say Stefan, just because of what he's achieved, and the way he did it. You know, because it wasn't always easy for him. You know, you've got, you know, he won his first title, didn't win for 3 years, and then his 4th year he won again on a Kawasaki. You know, won 3 in a row, and then 2 years out injured, and then he had to kind of redevelop and reinvent himself again. You know, and then he won 6 in a row. So you know, the race wins, the Grand Prix wins, the titles that he's got. I think you know, yes, he's been in some fantastic battles as well, I'm sure, and but just the way that he went about it, and I think, I don't know, to be honest. I mean, Jean-Michel Bayle, I was a kid, you know, we didn't really see it live on TV then. I just remember reading about it. I've seen him race. I saw him on video and things like that, and like as a kid, like most people, and he was very much a stylist. I'd see him a little bit later, you know, the US Outdoor Nationals, doing what he did in America before he ended up, you know, going road race. I would say he's probably right up there as well. And then after that, I think we're looking sort of more towards the modern era, really. I mean, you can go down a list of who, but, you know, if you look at the top 10 Grand Prix winners of all time, you know, and in there you're going to have Stefan, Tony, Jeff. Probably 4th is more likely Smets, then Joel Robert. Then you're going to have Mikael Pichon's going to be in there. Torsten Hallman, Roger De Costa's in there. Who else is going to be in there? Heikki Mikkola. You know, 10 guys, and you go, well, yeah. How many of those though were, and Joel Robert pre me? Didn't see them, you know. It's just a case of, you know, who would you put in your top 3 of all? It's top 3 that you've seen, you know, riding. And I think it's different. You know, you got to put Tony in there. You got to put Jeff in there. You know, maybe just because again, what they, you know, Tony, because no one thought anyone would get close to Stefan, and he's 9 on 89 victories, and Jeffrey, I think, just because he's, you know. Yeah, he's taken some crap over the years, you know, for the match. Stayed in MX2, but he's through some pretty horrific injuries. And he's a 4-time, you know, Geis is on form. You know, he's won 3 titles. You know, and they've all been in. I mean, one of the best races probably was of last year, last year was probably Trentino with Tony and Tim. You know, Jeffrey and Tommy at Matterley in 2012.
That was amazing.
So it's difficult for me to pick 3. Difficult. You know, there was a race, Ken de Dijker went 1-1 on a Richie Yamaha in Teufenthal 2009, I think it was, and Tony was on him right at the end. He left his Tony time too late, and de Dijker went 1-1 on a Yamaha, beat him by less than a second in the second race. You know, so there's performances. You know, we're talking performances, or we're talking overall. You know, it's difficult. There's been a lot of stuff in the 12 years that I've been there. There's been a lot of good action, a lot of good races, and some good title challenges and races as well. You know.
Okay, cool. I'll call that the end of part 3 for a second.